it will be tough. And obviously, I also have a reputation regarding toxicity because I was a toxic leader, but it's not the toxicity in constant negativity. It's about wanting to improve, right? And if people don't want to improve more than they can, then there's nothing I can do about it. I think that if the boys didn't feel pressure, we could have actually beaten either FaZe or Beast Coast to make it through into top 8. I don't give a shit if you win or not. That's up to you. Like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. But in the end, it's not in my hands. I want more. Simple as that. That's it. I just wanted to fucking win. The way that we have approached this work now with M80 is very simple. If we work the hardest, then we can never use that as an excuse and say, we didn't work hard enough. I know I am right, so I don't really care what he thinks. However, there's not been a person that I've learned more from when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege and how to play it and how to think differently than I have from him.
Do you ever think about Legacy as a driving force or what you'd like to leave behind in the game?
The only thing I care about is leaving behind a net positive.
Welcome back to another episode. Again, untitled podcast. We'll figure it out eventually. Today, my guest needs absolutely zero introduction. It is the man that has touched the most hammers out of anyone in Siege. It's the man that has fit every role he has somehow filled in this community. Fabian joins me for hopefully an hour-long session. Fabian, I got to say, mate, thank you so much for taking the time. We've been playing a little bit of tag, but we got there in the end.
We got there in the end. I don't know if I've touched the most hammers. Maybe we have some people that were carpenters before. They probably touched more. But other than that, at least like tournament trophy hammers, then it might be me.
I think that one goes to you. And, you know, speaking about you just touching, I mean, anything you touch turns to gold. You moved to analysts, did a phenomenal job there. You've moved to coaching, and it's just a seamless fit. What is it for you about Siege? I mean, like, is it just the love? Is it the passion? Or is this just something that you're really fucking good at?
I think it's a mix of things. I'm really good at it, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have won as much as I have. I also see it as one of those things where it's like, when you have the recipe to success and people are willing to listen to it, then I think other people make your life so much easier as well. So it's not just about me being successful. I'm successful because people believe in what I do and what I say, and without that I wouldn't be. So it's quite like it's not just me, but it's also the people that are willing to be around me, which I can be a pain to be around, let's be fair. So it's a mix of things, but I just know what I'm doing, and then obviously all that passion comes together with it. I don't play the game anymore, but that's a completely different sort of passion. But when you watch so many hours of it, you're still involved and you still learn. And I think it's one of those things that people also underestimate. Like, even if I've won a lot, I can still learn every single day that I'm working.
Yeah, see, not enough people have that mentality, I'll be completely honest. People get close to the top, and they're pretty satisfied with that, which I guess would probably speak to why you've been so successy. Why not? You've been successful across way too many things. You are, hey, look, we only met in Brazil last year, and yet I feel like I've known you for an eternity. I don't know what it is. You're a very personable guy, and it feels like anything that you're around, I will be honest, you lighten the room, and that doesn't happen a lot in Siege, mate. I'll tell you right now, there are a lot of people in this community that know how to dampen a mood. But let's talk very quickly about how you got started, because for many, you know, we know you from the PSG 2 era. We know you from being on broadcast, and most recently, we know you from being on PSG Talon. But can you give us a little bit of, I guess, insight as to what got you into Siege and kind of why you took that step? Why was it Siege that hooked you in?
I play Counter-Strike, right? As a Swedish person, we all play Counter-Strike. That's just in our DNA, kind of. And I realized I was not that good of a shot. Which is fine, because I was more of like an anchor player, caller, utility user. When I then saw the I don't know what it's a trailer from Ubisoft for Siege, when I don't know if you remember it, but they rappelled down from a helicopter down to the roof of house. I was like, oh shit, this game looks like it's an FPS game, but it's a little bit more tactical and strategical. Maybe that'll fit my bill. I started playing with some friends that I used to play DayZ with, which then led to us going into tournaments, and we started placing like top 16 in Europe. But it was me dropping 15, 20 kills every game and them doing fuck all. So I realized I'm pretty good at this, which led to me searching for better teams, better opportunities, and like actual teams, not just mates. So from then on, things went really well. I mean, even then, but I was known as an aimer back in those days, right? I was an Ash Jaeger main, so that's a funny time being the oldest guy, but also the Ash Jaeger main. But I
What
think no,
changed then? How did that change? How did it go from Ash Jaegermain to one of the greatest minds in Siege?
um, simply because I was the one calling even from Ash Jaeger, but then when you notice you have pet people that are better mechanical players, which we didn't until we had like Jonas and Kanto and Chatte and those players, then
Yep.
what's the point in putting someone on Ash if they're not the most strategical player or like the most mechanical player? I was a pretty
Yep.
decent mechanical player, so why not just have me on it then? But yeah, when we got those players, I mean, then you have to use the strengths you have, which for me is usually more of I can read the game like I look at it like a tabletop game. I can read where
Yep.
the positions are. I can call what I need to call. I can prepare the way that I want to, and then from there on out, it just keeps going. Just use your strengths. Every single person in the team needs to have their strength figured out, and then from there you move.
So for you, you probably look at this game like a game of chess.
Yeah, no, it is a 3D chess in a way.
Yeah.
It's more
So
about
much more
combinations.
entertaining.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, for sure. Jesus Christ, only boomers like chess. No, but
Yeah.
it's about learning and continuously developing. It's very very simple in my eyes.
Yeah, learning and continuously developing
Yeah,
into a coach. Apparently, that was the way that you tended after such a successful playing career.
yeah.
What inspired the move? Why, like, did you just see it as the logical step? You finish playing, maybe you don't feel as mechanically sharp as you used to. What was the reason that you stepped into more of an analytical coaching style?
Not by choice, I'll be honest and say. Most of it came due to Europe obviously having such a split up language barrier for teams. So, like, if
Sure.
you're an English speaking player, you can't really go to that many teams. And there weren't that many teams when me and G2 decided to split from each other
Yeah.
when I was a player. So there was Vitality. They wanted to change the project around. Both staff and management wanted to change it to fully French, apparently, which then led to me being benched. All
Right.
offers to be bought out were not accepted because they were
Yeah.
apparently not valued high enough, which then led to me just sitting on the bench doing fuck all for 9 months. And when you do that, it will be tough. And obviously, I also have a reputation regarding toxicity because I was a toxic leader, but it's not the toxicity in constant negativity. It's about wanting to improve, right? And if people don't want to improve more than they can, then there's nothing I can do about it. But yeah, I wasn't given many choices. I didn't even have a trial offer. I'll be honest and say 9 months after Vitality, which is like a year after the most successful in-game leader in the world. And they don't get an offer. They're in-game leader. They're not even supposed to frag for you. But that just goes to show how much of a friendship-based environment Rainbow Six professional gameplay is, because not even an offer. That's just absurd.
Did that? I mean, that's got a. I could only imagine coming from a competitive background of something like football. That's
Yeah.
that's where my mind goes to. I think about that. That would have had to have left scars for you. Like, regardless of how good you are or what the future aspirations were, was that really the tipping point? Was that just the salt in the wounds to be like, it's been 9 months and we're still not getting offers. I'm not getting any game time. I'm not getting any opportunities.
I mean, Vitality kept me for 9 months, right? So I wasn't even allowed to play with anybody else at that point, because that's just how
Yeah.
contracts work. I mean, I'm not holding that against them. That's just how
Sure.
the signed contract is, right? But it's more about like not being able to get any offers after, which is like, whilst it's salt in the wound, it's also surprising because, I mean, let's put it this way: what other in-game leader, English speaking, in Europe do you see as successful?
I'm not opening my mouth, Fabian. Especially when I'm on an interview with you. I'm not fucking opening my mouth. There's nothing. I mean, has anyone been as successful as you have?
Oh, not as successful, but even just remotely successful as an
Yeah.
English-speaking person. I don't think that we have one. Like, there are people that have won a major, sure, but have they won anything else?
So, I mean, after SIs, after Pro League titles, after everything you achieved, did you not feel like getting back out there, regardless of offers coming in? Were you just absolutely set on being like, well, fuck you all then?
No. I wasn't getting the offers. I wasn't getting the opportunities to even trial for those teams.
Okay.
So there was like they were never given, which meant obviously you won't be back. And if you that's why I started a tier 3 organization as well, right? Where I could actually do something. And it's actually so crazy how like that Delta project that I did back in 2021, 22, it's like the players that we had in that team, they developed way further. Like Joom is one of the most, like I rate Joom really highly in EUL at the moment. We had Status go on to coach Fnatic and be like the head coach of that team. We had me go on to win an SI with G2. We had Kant to go on to win a major in Berlin. It's like we had a tier 3 team, and all of those people in it went on to be successful in their own ways. But it's like, okay, so I could do that 2 years after I'm done and retired, but I wouldn't be getting any tier 1 offers back then. But again, it is what it is. It's not like I can change it now. It's not like I will complain. I mean, I wish every single day that I still was playing, because that's just the more enjoyable part of the job.
Sure.
But it's not realistic. I also wouldn't want it today, if that makes sense. Because now I'm fucking 30 years. Now I'm 30 years old. I have a wife. I kind of want the life. And as a player, you don't have a life.
Also, congratulations on your wedding. What a beautiful time that was for you. Was it nice to just get away? You were still connected to Siege. You had a lot of players and familiars there, but was it nice to kind of get away from it and just celebrate a part of your life that isn't Siege?
It was nice, but it's mostly like the people that were there from Siege are the closest one, and then Doki, because Doki self-invited himself, so I didn't have a say there.
I guess whatever Doki says goes at this point. You just kind of smile and wave at the player that is.
You're not supposed to bully the kids, right? That's the thing.
Oh, Jesus. All right, moving on with that one. Easy transition into coaching. Speaking of bullying, great opportunity to lead teams from the back and I guess take a leadership role that's probably even more in depth than just being an IGL or calling on a team. You're impacting 5 players in front of you, and you're doing so on a personal level, also a strategic level. You're trying to develop regions as it is. What was the decision behind the move to PSG Talon? Because obviously that's a massive move. Like to move to APAC after being in EU, for the successes that you had after G2, what was it about PSG Talon that drew you in?
So there was two reasons. One, that I wanted to get into a team where I felt like, okay, I can actually have an impact here, and I can try to develop a region that's not being successful. Yeah, people will talk about D+ making a semifinal. Well, they played another Korean team to get to the semifinals. I don't know if it was that successful. And also, any team can have a 1 tournament run. Like, that's just the way it is. Any team can have a 1 tournament run. So the first reason is actually Ubisoft and Blast. I was told when I left G2 that I would get every single opportunity that I wanted on the desk. I would get all the play days, all of this, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't offered that. And when they then don't offer it, I ask, am I allowed to go take a job within a different region that I'm not working on with the desk? And I was told yes. I did so, and then I was replaced for it. Or at least that's the way I see it as it happening. Obviously, they will probably tell a different story. There's something about me being difficult to work with, or they will find their way to be political about it. Each to their own. So yeah, then I got replaced from the desk, which then turned into obviously coaching being full time, which was like half, if that makes sense. Previously to that, and it was mostly because obviously monetary wise, if I had a full time coaching job like I did at G2, I would make good money. Doing talent work is also good money, but because I wasn't offered all of the working days, I didn't make as much money, which then obviously turned into a frustration with me, because I left a job that was a good job because I was offered something and then it wasn't given to me. So it's you can believe whichever side you want to. I know you obviously are also involved with Blast, so you don't need to go into that further, but it's just how the world works. It's just how the world works. And sometimes you get your way, sometimes you don't. And in the end, I was happier working with PSG than I was with Blast. And I also got an opportunity to give a region something of a hope. And I'm not talking about APAC as a whole, because they already had Bleed, they had Bliss, but it's more about Korea. Like, yeah, sure, D+ and Firax, they were good teams, or at least decent teams. But I think we did something special with PSG for the year I was there.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the Manchester performance was really the first time everyone looked at it and saw the excitement. We could see it just oozing from you, obviously, sitting
Yeah.
behind them and celebrating with them, which I'm sure was an incredible feeling. But before we get to, I guess, international events and performances and things like that, I want to talk to you about the Korea region as a whole, because
Yeah.
right now, unfortunately, the player pool has diminished so dramatically over the years that it's gotten to a point where you do have to look for outside influence to have an impact in Korea specifically. You know, Japan's still flourishing,
Yeah.
Southeast Asia still flourishing for players, and I guess that talent pool of tier 2, tier 3 players. But when it comes to Korea, what was the biggest hurdles that you faced as a coach?
Language barrier is obviously there. Culture barrier is there.
Yeah.
But there's like there was no players. Soldier wanted to retire pre-SI. We
Yeah.
trialed players. It's just like no chance, zero chance that we would even get anybody because they were just not good enough. They don't have the basics. They don't have the understanding of anything really. Like counting players, right? Is the basics. Like okay, so say that there are 3 players alive. They're in X Y Z position. What do you
Yeah.
call of that? Well, in Korea, you follow the paper that's right in front of you that says what you're supposed to call. And you want to know something even funnier?
I would
PSG
love to,
Talon,
please.
before I came there, didn't even have anything on the paper. They have everything in a Discord server where it said like individual things that they're doing. I was like,
Yep.
wait, what? That's like we have had that since 2016, which is like a month after the game released. We had everything on the drive set up so that everything is successful, but they didn't have anything. So it's like it's not surprising when the third best team in your region, they don't have anything structured. How the fuck will you
Yeah.
continue developing? You just can't. But yeah, it was a good time though because the guys were really willing to learn. I mean, you see a player like Misa, for example, the development arc that he has had.
Yeah.
He was considered a
Yeah.
talent before, but in my eyes, he's just like outshine or outshun or whatever it is in English. Like everyone, like the amount of improvement he's shown is crazy.
Yeah.
But also the team in general, like that we go up against BDS and we go up against FaZe and Beast Coast at Manchester, and we put up actual decent resistance. I think that if
Yeah.
the boys didn't feel pressure, we could have actually beaten either FaZe or Beast Coast to make it through into top 8. So I'm surprised at how we managed to take a team that's literally they had never won a map internationally to compete
Yep.
against the best in the world. And
Yeah.
I mean, we beat BDS twice. I don't even think that there are any other teams that can say that.
No, well, I mean, the fact that BDS has made every main stage for the last 4 events and won one of them, which was
Yeah.
EW, that to me just goes to show kind of where you guys were at Manchester, and it goes to show the progress that was made in such a short period of time. What was the biggest thing you had to change when you came in and you looked at the team? Was it exactly what you're talking
Everything.
about in those
Everything. There was not
You
one
can't
thing
say that, Fabian. You got to give me
but
something.
seriously, there was. If you go and ask those guys, I don't think that they would say that anything is the same as to what it was before, except maybe the
Yeah.
callouts, because obviously they
Yeah.
speak Korean, so I can't even help them on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but we changed genuinely everything around. The way that strats were presented, the way that ideas were presented, the way that we communicate, the way that we read our opponents, how we play the game mathematically about manpower. Because again, it's like if you're 5-on-3, well, what's the most important is you keep your manpower up and then you play together. What's the most important at 3-on-5? Well, find a guy that's singled out, go for him when you can. Because if you're 3 versus 5, but you guys decide to take a 3-on-1 fight because you know a guy is soloed out, all of a sudden manpower advantage goes back into closer to your favor. And those are the things. It's like you have to think about the game in a different way.
Yeah.
And they had never even thought about thinking about it in a different way.
How long did it take for them to start to incorporate what you were talking about? Are we talking a stage? Are we talking still to this day to the point where now you're on M80? We'll talk about that in a second. Probably should have mentioned that at the very start. But even to now, like when was the moment where it kind of clicked for them, if it ever did?
It did start to click, you know? I don't think that it is something that just comes. Like you have to play. But most of the time, when we played decent teams in practice, we would spend more time actually rewatching the practice than we would playing the game, which I know is super fucking boring.
Yeah.
But for you to be able to win long term, you need to be able to look back at the game and see, why did you do these things? It's the why behind the what that I always talk about it. Why did you do what you did?
Yeah.
And when you have the answers for that, and people start to understand that that's where the answers needs to come, then it's so much easier. Because when you look at it and you're like, oh fuck, I was so dumb. Why did I do that? And it's like, what was the reasoning behind it? Was it just an emotional based decision? Was it an overreaction to a call out? And then you kind of stem the problems. The biggest Siege thing that people don't think about, everyone talks about, oh, he's such a good gamer, or he's so smart, or blah, blah, blah. The biggest thing is to make the least mistakes. If you make the least mistakes, because then there's nothing to punish.
Yeah.
Then you win games. We weren't the best players in G2 Penta days. Like, we had good players. We had some of the absolute best players. However, it's not that we were the best all the time. It's that we didn't do mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we trained them out. By having a coach, by having an in-game leader that was very toxic when you did mistakes.
Yeah, I would imagine that there was an iron fist behind them pushing them to do so, which also I want to talk about. You mentioned at the very start of kind of the transition to PSG was the cultural differences. So, you know, for people who are unaware in APAC, you can go to any country and the cultural shifts and differences in society to what their history, it's so dramatically different that it's not even funny. There's no, like, there isn't really a consistent line that you can follow all the way through. So when you, I guess let's skip a little bit. Let's go to, like, you know, Manchester. By the time that you were going to Manchester with this team, what were the cultural things that were holding you back, but also what were the cultural shifts that were giving them the edge, giving them an advantage?
In the space that we are, which in my eyes, we have to be quite innovative and quite curious is another word I think I would use for it. We have to constantly want to learn and want to improve. I've said it so many times already here, but in Korea, I feel like their willingness to learn and, like, by themselves is not that high. They want to be taught by somebody. And I think that is a very big negative, because you as players, you are the ones on the server. And when you're on the server every single day for hours upon end, you will know the insights of the game way better than I will. I might have won every tournament that there is to win, but I'm not playing anymore. You guys are feeling what's going on. And you're feeling what's going wrong for you and what's going wrong for your teammates, because it directly impacts you. When I'm sitting outside watching, I have a billion excuses for why you did X, Y, Z play, because I can see everything, I can hear everything, and I can be relaxed while thinking about it, because there's nothing I have to control.
Yeah, of course.
So I'll make excuses for you. But what were you thinking? And it comes back to that part. It's like they were not independent workers.
Sure.
And in Sweden, we have something that's called, like, eye servant. They serve you when you're looking at them, but as soon as you're looking away, it stops. And that was a little bit the thing with Korean culture. And then add on top of that an idea of that it's better to pretend that you understand than to ask questions and look dumb.
Sure.
So you'll do it wrong 200 times until I spot it, but you did it those 199 times wrong without me seeing it, and therefore didn't do anything wrong because, well, I didn't see it. So it was like more about wanting to satisfy what I was asking rather than to be better, if that makes sense. Which is like, I was super hard on them with that, because in my eyes, you can't do that. Like, I don't give a shit if you win or not. That's up to you. Like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to guide you. Yeah. But in the end, it's not in my hands.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, eventually it kind of, I feel like PSG Talon got to a point where either they were going to have to dig their heels in with you and completely dramatically shift and alter the way they played, or unfortunately, you were going to up and leave. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to jump the gun yet. There was one moment, I guess, that a lot of people talked about SI, which was just, you're sitting behind them and all you're saying is fight. That, like, one word, I think I heard you say fight 4 or 5 times over, and the second that clicked and registered and they kind of took that pressure off their shoulders, they looked like a different team.
Yeah.
Would you say that is another barrier that I guess Korea in specific, we won't talk about the other regions, but we'll talk about Korea. So that's something that they really struggle with, which is, the pressure that they take with them to events.
They put so much pressure on themselves. I kept repeating to them, we have no pressure here, guys. We are fine. It's not like we're the underdog. Like, we are not supposed to win this event, and that's okay. But it's frustrating when they play like absolute dog shit against Rata Company and against who else did we lose to? Falcons, that are much weaker teams than both Dark Zero and BDS. But Dark Zero and BDS, we win just a lot easier. It's a frustration when it's like, we can do this if we want to, but they put so much pressure on themselves to achieve something that they don't.
Yeah.
It is super simple. You just have to accept the situation you're in, but they were expecting to beat those 2 other teams as well. Like, they expected to beat Falcons and Rasta Company. And when you expect to beat someone and then you don't, negative emotions comes in quite quickly.
We were actually talking about this. The Sage episode will be out now. So Sageon from Australia, Os, formerly Bliss, has retired, and we were kind of talking about the weight of expectations, and especially for APAC teams, it seems to hit them in a different way. Now, I'm sure that would also echo all around the world. Even BDS are making every final, but they can't get over that hurdle once it gets to the R6 global ecosystem. Once we hit Blast's ecosystem, it completely changes for them, and they just can't get over that. So I guess with that in mind, with the weight of just kind of the unbearable nature that comes with responsibility once you actually have that opportunity to beat a team, how do you as a coach, first of all, how did you approach it as a player, and has that changed as a coach?
No, it's not changed. First of all, for Sage, it was time he retired. That guy was wank. No, just taking the wish him well in his retirement. I mean, I know he's moved on to a management position within the organization, or that's it, I think. So well wishes for him in that sort of pursuit. But no, it's not changed at all. I think that winning is a habit. You create that habit in practice by working your ass off and taking practice just as seriously as you would take an official. And I think that is something that APAC struggles from massively. And I think that this is personal based from players struggling with it, because they see this not as an actual professional environment or a professional job. They see it as a hobby that is their job. And that's a problem. Whilst you need to be friends with your teammates and you need to build on the relationship with them, number one priority is not to be their friend, is to be a success. And if you then don't put your all into it, but you instead, okay, you are now 9-0 up in a practice, last 3 rounds, you troll them. Okay, why? Why are you? Who are you to think that you have time to waste 3 minutes out and 3 rounds? So 9 minutes, but it's not just 9 minutes. It's 9 minutes for all your teammates, 9 minutes for all your staff. It builds up. Those 3 rounds, they go quickly to a lot of time. I mean, 3 times 3 is 9, and then 9 times 7 or whatever, that goes quickly. It's what, 54? That's an hour of time wasted because your ego just says, yeah, these guys don't, there's no point in practicing them. Yeah. Okay. Who are you to decide that? If they weren't good enough to be practiced, we wouldn't practice them.
Yeah.
People just throw themselves, is what I see it as.
Well, I mean, you can see that on the international stage. No matter the region, APAC definitely suffers from a very interesting. I'm going to be careful how I say this, but it has notoriously struggled whenever it gets to the international events, that even when they start to gain a little bit of momentum, you think about Fnatic back in the day, you think about Wildcard at Tokoname, you think about D+, all of these teams, all of a sudden something just flicks in them where it's almost like, oh, that's enough. We've done enough. You know, we've made it to where we thought was unmakeable, and we're happy with that. And then it's just a slippery slope at every event. And then all of a sudden you're like me and we're sitting on a broadcast getting upset because we just keep watching it. But now that you have left PSG Talon behind, the first question I'm going to ask is, what was the reason for stepping back?
I joined PSG Talon with the idea in my head that I'm done with the competition. Like I don't care if I win anymore because I've already won it all. Now it's about, in a certain way, stability. Because if you think about it, at PSG Talon, am I replaceable? Not really.
Don't think there's many places you're replaceable, if I'm being
No,
honest,
but
mate.
in a different way. Here I'm untouchable. I'm untouchable in PSG.
Yeah.
And that's not something negative for me. Obviously, it's very good because I can just do whatever I want. I had full control of the roster. I did literally whatever I wanted to. But that's just because I thought I was done, and then I go to a region where, okay, now it's a challenge to myself. I get a stable paycheck every month, and I can just continuously work and build a project where I think I'm happy. But then, and I was happy with PSG. PSG is a great organization. Like Talon treated us great, but it comes to a point where it's like, okay, but we're beating BDS with the Koreans. And if I can beat BDS with the Koreans, I can beat Dark Zero with the Koreans. And, you know, then you go to the competition, but you go out in groups. It's like, no, I don't want that. I want to go to the final. I want to win the events. I want more. Simple as that. That's it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to fucking win.
So prior to PSG Talon, you thought you were kind of done in that respect? Is that,
I thought I was done.
Yeah, and then you get a taste for it. Then all of a sudden you go, hang on a second, I'm sick of kind of losing. I want to win again.
Yeah, you have that saying, like you can take a man out of competition, but you can't take a competition out of a man. And I think that really summarizes it well.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. So looking back, I guess, for what legacy you've left, you know, you kind of brought Korea back to the main stage in a very competitive way. You might have changed the trajectory of those players' careers individually, also as a team. What's the highlight for you looking back? What do you look at as a bit of a legacy that you've left?
I look back at the legacy I've left in terms of I've helped players that were not in a situation where they were considered some of the greater players of Korea, and I think I put them in that position that they were considered the greatest players in Korea. Maybe not in the history of Korea. I mean, Yas was with me as well here, but then he's one of those players that people consider the greatest. But like there are question marks now on all the players that we've had in our team. How good was Gotti when he came in from nowhere? The best he's had ever had was a substitute position before. And then we had Soldier that's not really like he's been to events but never shine at all. Misa, a guy nobody even fucking thought of when we look at international events, and then he can go on and drop 17 kills against BDS. And just like, I mean, Ryder, we saw him against BDS at Invite, like the ace that he gets with Deimos. Would anybody have even looked at those Korean players before and said, yeah, those guys they're gonna beat BDS twice in a year, and they're also gonna not just do it in a best of one, but they're also gonna beat them in a best of three. Nobody would have said yes to that. Had anybody say that I had coached under an alias where I was Potato Consumer or whatever, that's my nickname on my Smurf account, Potato Consumer. Nobody would have believed it.
Yeah.
But somehow we managed to do it.
Sorry.
It's a great name.
It's a fantastic name, but I think what you've left, you know, speaking from someone who has been in APAC their entire career, I think you could see outwardly the impact that both you and, you know, I guess to an extent other coaches have had in this region. There's a very clear earmark for when you were there and then when you left. So I really hope that PSG Talon, as they move forward now, they can continue to take what they learn and adapt that in their sessions and look to still compete, not only in APAC North, now that everything's shifting domestically, but also get back to the international stage. I only hope good things for them. The final question before we move away. You reckon they will?
Yeah, I think that Jonathan replacing me, they could have looked at any other coach from like Europe or North America. Most of them, like in the lower teams, they would be able to get as well if they wanted to, like if they pushed hard enough. But I think that they could not find a better replacement for me. I promoted Jonathan and said, like, to PSG, this is the guy you're taking, because he has learned so much under me and Pengu, like working with us. And he's a much better person in different ways to me, in terms of people management, much better. He's also much better when it comes to all the Google Sheet stuff and like the analytical side of things. Yes, he doesn't have the playing experience. Yes, he doesn't have the success experience. But I think it's easier that they build that together because they're all on the same page. I was respected too much by the players. They would not question what I said, even though I said, guys, I am going to be wrong probably more than 50% of the time. Yeah. And that's what I keep promoting within M80 as well. If I say something and you think it's stupid, you call me the dumbest fucking person you've met.
Yeah.
And it's so simple because I'd rather be wrong and have brought it up and be told I'm wrong than to sit there quietly, or you guys sit there quietly and just nod, because that's not going to lead to anything.
No, it creates a pretty shit environment, all things considered.
Yeah.
So the final question before we move on, will you return to APAC, or was this a one and done?
I don't think so.
No, I had a feeling where that question was going, and I'm grateful that you're being honest with me. Now we can move on to bigger and brighter things. You're wearing the jersey, and it has just been announced. We're going to wait until it's gone out before we say anything, but M80, this is an extremely exciting venture for you. Whether you look at it as the same as what the public would look at it as, this is an unbelievable step into a roster that will really need that guidance from a trophy winning, a giant killing coach like yourself.
Yeah.
How does it feel to move from the APAC to the North American boys?
You know, I'm just doing a world tour at this point.
You are.
When M80 contacted PSG regarding potentially buying me out and me being allowed to speak to M80 and the product that they wanted to have for this year, I mean, it couldn't be an easier choice. It was so straightforward. Like, I spoke to all the players there because obviously the M80 players were still around. They had already decided to make some moves in terms of roster, not pick up anybody, but more as this is the trio that we will build from, and then we will continue working on that. And I was like, sure, I'm not gonna come into a new team and say, hey, yeah, you can't drop this guy and this guy because I want them. I don't see coaching that way. Coaching, like people in esports, they look at coaching in esports as a football coach, you know, but it's not. It's not the same way. It's not even remotely the same way. Like, and also there are some coaches that are going to be super strategical and being the ones that tell people how to play the game, and I'm not that way either. Like take Bodega that was here before me, right? He was a very strategically involved coach together with Vivas, his second or right hand man.
Yep.
And whilst I can help you with theory and I can help you with strategy, I think it's more my job to guide you to find the right way, because when we are in an official match, I have 45 seconds to your hour of gameplay. How much impact can I really have? No, almost none. What I, however, can do is prepare you for that 1 hour of gameplay, so that every single round you can have a minute timeout if you want to. You can speak about what to change. You can fix what there is to change, and I prepare you for that. I bring a very heavily structured work schedule where we follow a schedule. I think I know how much they practiced before. I've almost doubled it per week in terms of just raw practice. I've introduced theory sessions that last forever. And it's not like in the way of like, oh yeah, I'm just forcing you to do theory. It's more about, we need to rewatch our matches. Debriefs with me after 6 maps in a day, that can take 2 hours, 2.5 hours if it has to. But the way that we have approached this work now with M80 is very simple. If we work the hardest, then we can never use that as an excuse and say, we didn't work hard enough.
Yep.
And I think that's a regret of a lot of players and a lot of teams. They will come with the regret that, oh yeah, we didn't work hard enough. But that can't be the case with this team right now, because the hours that we're putting in and the effort we're putting in is probably unmatched in North America.
Well, significant change to go from, again, G2 to PSG Talon to now M80, and obviously a pretty significant change for the players, as you're touching on there. In saying that, what expectations do you have for this roster? I know it's super early on. You've probably only been with them for the better part of 2 months. And I mean, it wouldn't even be 2 months. We only,
No.
now that we're recording this, we were still in SI 2 months ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, the time
and
has
I
been
went on
so
honeymoon.
short. And you also went on a honeymoon and did some pretty incredible personal things. But I guess, what are your expectations, especially now that you've had a month under your belt with this roster?
Your microphone just died. I don't know if you hit something.
I hit mute. Don't mind me. What are your expectations? Just completely ignore me. You wouldn't believe it. I dropped my pen and it hit it directly.
That is actually impressive.
It's unbelievable. So what are your expectations now that you look at a month of prep and now we're kind of going into reload? What are your hopes for this?
I mean, first of all, a reload is a meme. The entire format is just a joke. It's not competitive whatsoever. That doesn't mean we're not going to try to win the event. Of course, our goals will always be to win events, and now we actually have a team that is capable of doing so. I mean, they won a major before, as four of them in the core of Beast Coast. But I need to do something with M80 in terms of organization and the structure before we can look at ourselves winning the events, and that is to present the players with stability.
Okay.
These guys have been jumping around orgs and teams and everything that there is so much. You and I both know, and this is no surprise to anybody. How much have M80 changed players? Every fucking event.
Revolving door.
I mean, most events is even like 2 players that go out.
Yeah.
And what we are here to do, and what I'm here to do, is show the guys that here is stability when I'm the one in charge. Because I have a lot of trust from the organization and a lot of weight, there's not going to be a replacement that goes above my head. And because of these reasonings, I need to show the guys here that you can feel safe, you can feel that you are trusted and that you're respected as a teammate and as a player. We're not going to replace you just because of a bad event, or because we have a bad event, or you as an individual have it. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not in the playbook anymore. Stability, longevity, that's what we're building for. If we win an event in a year, we'll be fucking so happy. If we don't, we'll be also okay with that, simply for the reason that the organization of M80, they've always been known to do super teams. And whilst people will probably say that this is also a super team, it's all about your mental state. If you're not ready to win events as a team, you're not ready. And I don't believe that any single iteration of M80 previously have been ready. That's as simple as it is.
It probably shows at the international events as well. And I guess to the distaste of a lot of the people that, you know, talent, obviously, that I'm speaking about here, that watch M80 throughout the group stages. And it always feels like they're close, but they're just not hitting the strides that they should be, super teams and all. So I guess that's probably a good question for you, just as a coach. You far more value a team of champions than you know what I'm saying there. A champion team over a team of champions. You'd rather work with the core of a roster that you can build week on week, month on month, stage on stage, and have that longevity so that everyone feels, 1, secure, but 2, backed by you and knowing full well what. Because I guess with you as well, sorry to just add another thing in there, but you are like very much a contrasting personality. You say it as it is. I think a lot of people that would take a while to get used to as a coach.
I don't think so with these guys, because these guys want me, if that makes sense. Okay. They want me to do these things, and they want us to have this environment where we are working the hardest, and we don't cut corners and we don't bullshit each other. Like, the way we have structured up the team with the team culture is a team culture built by the players. Of course, with a little bit of guiding from me in terms of saying, okay, these things important to you? Are these things important to you? And then we build a team culture that has structure or pillars of how do we treat each other? How do we work with each other? What do we consider professionalism? Responsibilities, what are they? And whilst a lot of teams will say, oh yeah, I'm responsible for this or I'm responsible for that, in reality, their responsibilities are non-existent in terms of nobody gives a shit. Yeah. But here we keep ourselves responsible is number 1. The first person to keep a teammate responsible is you to keep yourself. And then we move on. Can't expect perfection out of someone when you don't do it yourself.
What's it going to be? Well, how long have you been on the roster now? When did you do you have like an official start date that you were in there?
Second day after coming home from SI, we started working.
Holy
The
shit.
the deal
Okay.
was done in terms of like communication. It wasn't done in terms of like everything signed, but it was a done deal, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I basically that's when we started working. When like I knew I was gonna leave, I had the contract offer. I hadn't signed with M80, but I had the contract offer on the table. The
Yep.
agreement between the two organizations were done. It was just about the fine details to sign. But
Yep.
they were done with each other. So that's when we started working. As soon as I was basically legally allowed to start, that's when we began. So almost instantly after SI, because
Yeah.
we wanted to get it done.
So you mentioned you're working with the core of Beast Coast. I think 4 of the 5 players of
Yeah.
Beast Coast you're working with that were obviously incredibly, ridiculously successful at Manchester. Again, whether
Yeah.
that's a golden run, I will never comment on a team winning an event because, mate, we've seen runs before. We've seen great teams do horrendous things at events. So things can happen. Things can go your
Yeah.
way. What is it like working with this roster that, you know, were formally together, won a championship, kind of went their separate ways in a very loose manner, and you still had a little bit of an unguided roster that went to SI as unwanted,
Yeah.
and now it's coming back together. Do you feel like once those two boys, I believe it was Hot and Cold and
Gav.
Gav,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
completely blanked. So those two rejoining the roster, what was there any conflict? Was there any kind of
No.
friction, or was it just literally slipping straight back into it?
I mean, in a way that it turns into me and Kuno being kind of the outsiders, because these guys know each other really well, right? And they know how strengths and weaknesses are for each other. And
Yeah.
If we look at like the first week of things and the second week of things, Leo became quite like the scapegoat when things went wrong, right? Because he's the new guy. He's the one that they don't have with them for a long time, and
Yeah.
that's been shut down because they see the value that he can provide as well. And it's just
Yeah.
funny to see because it is like they brought in a new coach and one new player, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's nothing more special than that. This is a team that know each other. It's like a family feud, you know. They fucked up from each other for one event and then they're back together. So that's it. It's like working with the Beast Coast roster, and it's
Yeah.
also so interesting to see the different experiences that they have had with previous coaches for them,
Yeah.
which some have been good, some have been bad, and how we approach different things and how they take different things. It's like Leo said that they never worked like because he has only worked with the two coaches they had previously. Like working
Yeah.
with me is a completely different. It's like I have no idea if what they were doing was good or bad because it's the only thing I've known. And then he gets to see new things and obviously we have different strengths because their approach of coaching is way different from mine. But
Of course.
I think that the way that I look at how you coach a team and the way you build a team, I think longevity and success in long term is way more important than success in short term. Because again, as I said, you make winning a habit. You start winning one time, you can do it as Beast Coast did, which was probably a one-off at that moment. I mean, nobody looked at them as winning more events, and then they didn't even qualify for EWC after that, did they? No, they didn't.
Oh.
And did they qualify for
The last
Montreal?
12 months is kind of like a blur to me.
Yeah,
Beast
I don't
Coast
think.
or
Yeah, I don't know
M80?
if they Beast Coast, like because that was the team before. No, they were the team even for, or maybe they split up in the summer. It was Cloud9 Beast Coast.
Yeah,
Did they play
that's
the
right.
stage?
I
don't remember.
Give me 2
I
seconds.
don't. I don't think they qualified for the event.
No, they didn't. They didn't qualify. They finished 6th in stage 2, and then they bottomed out in last chance qualifiers, going 5th
Yeah.
and 8th.
Yeah, so they didn't even qualify for the second event. In my eyes, isn't that quite a fluke? It is.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't care about that. That's before me for them, and it's before me or before them for me. So I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. They have proven that they can win events, and now it's up to
Yes.
us as a group to shape them to win more.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you've got you've got a great core with you to do that, and
Yeah.
having your experience. Look, we could go around in circles talking about, I guess, M80 and what's to expect. But at the end of the day, you've been with them for a month and a half, maybe a little over that now. And the first international event is just around the corner. Yeah, well, there we go. We'll jump ahead straight to, I guess, a year in front. But I want to talk to you maybe. Are you happy to move on from the M80 discussion? I want to be careful not to go in circles.
I am fine wherever. I think one thing that's worth mentioning before we head off from it, though, is the background work of Pedro within the team. I do not think people realize how much work he puts in and how much of a glue he is to the roster. I think he's a hidden gem that people just don't value enough yet. But hopefully we can show the world how much value he actually brings to a team, because I don't think anyone understands it.
Get on the international stage enough, and I think it's nearly impossible to look past that one. I think what I'd love to do is kind of talk to you about your experiences, because you've been to 3 major regions now as a coach, and in each, well, now that you're moving to NA, what is the biggest difference that you found between EU and NA now that you've kind of been working with these guys? Has it got to do with work ethic? Has it got to do with game knowledge? Like, where's the biggest difference between the 2 regions?
I think that in North America, the tier 2 quality is much lower.
Okay.
That's like the big one. So like scrim quality is worse in North America. I think that the work ethic is up to the individuals and not so much up to the teams. And I obviously don't know the work ethic of the other teams.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that in general, Europe works harder, because how new the hard work was to the guys when I introduced it, that tells me that they haven't experienced it previously. Therefore, I say that work environment in Europe is harder working than it is in North America. Game understanding is the same. Individual mechanical ability is probably the same. It could be slightly weaker due to the opponents being weaker, and therefore they look the same. But I would put them in basically the same box. And now we're talking about like different videos. It's so funny because I spoke before about learning, and Alemao and we don't get along whatsoever. That's not a secret to anybody. I think he's a piece. Well, no, I'm not gonna say he's a piece of shit. He is a piece of shit. I'm gonna say it. He's a piece of shit. No, but him and I just have completely different views on how professionalism is.
Yes,
I know I am right, so I don't really care what he thinks. However, there's not been a person that I've learned more from when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege and how to play it and how to think differently than I have from him. And that's one of those things where it's like you take what you can from the people that you're working with and you learn from it. And it's important that people do it because, again, I think that all the APAC regions, they have fallen behind so far because they place friendships and they like all the sort of drama that you see from APAC, especially Oath, because obviously they speak English. It's easiest to see there. The sort of drama that happens. Yeah, it's so childish. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's like, with that sort of mentality, it just tells me that they are not ready to perform at the higher level. And I'd probably say that that's like APAC as a whole. Like that's what I know is the biggest difference there is the immaturity of the scene and the immaturity of the teams will not allow for higher placements than what is currently being achieved.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, do you see a world in which APAC shifts? Do you see a world in which that could ever change the perspective of that region? Because since the start of time, whenever we get a decent run, everyone's absolutely gobsmacked and we're all cheering. Do you ever see a world in which APAC can turn this to being a norm?
No. I think that the language barrier between the different regions are too high. But it's actually, you know what? It's just so crazy. Like, yeah, okay, the guys in O's, they have really high ping to APAC. But it's like Japan has Korea, and Korea has Japan, and then you have Southeast Asia, and you have O's. Technically, you have 4 professional regions that can all play and practice each other.
Yeah.
Amount of people-wise, you have so much people in Asia as a general. You guys should be producing the professionals. But for some reason, it's just not happening. And I don't know the reason why.
Okay.
But you guys have, like, you have all the things that you should need, technically.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid. I just don't see how it hasn't succeeded yet.
I just honestly like. I mean, we could probably make a podcast just talking about the pitfalls of APAC and what could be changed. I by no means do I want to take up any more time talking about APAC, because I think that there's better questions to be asking you. You've gone from being a successful player, again, I introed with this, successful
Yeah.
player to a successful analyst to a successful coach, or vice versa. It doesn't matter the transition. You've been successful in each of those different facets. And I think now that we're kind of getting to an era where you can start to impact other regions that aren't just EU, you've gone to APAC, you've improved them. We're now seeing you in NA. Who knows what the fuck you're going to do there? I have a very good idea what you're going to do there.
It's China.
But what if tick? But what are you learning as you go along? Like, what's changed the most since your G2 Penta era? What is it about your mentality, if at all? Maybe you are God's gift and you haven't had to change at all. But what is the biggest difference between then and now?
I mean, first of all, let's get it straight. I'm not God's gift. I am the God. No, no.
It speaks for itself, okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because I've been at SI Grand Final in 3 different ways: coach, player, and analyst. I don't think that there's many people that can say that about any video game in any way, shape, or form.
I think so.
I've won it as the 2 ones that I can, but because analysts, like desk analysts, can't win them. I don't think.
You did. Hey, you did the grand final. That's close enough, right? I feel like that's the only thing that you can do.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is probably like emotionally. I am much more emotionally distant, if that makes sense. Like I don't allow things to take over anymore. The amount of times that I shouted when I was a player was literally weekly, in terms of like legitimately screaming at them at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
That was probably every 3-4 days that I would do that. Wow. But because if you don't put in the effort for me, like, basically, if you didn't try your best and you didn't do your best, then I had no use for you, and I could tell you to go fuck yourself. Yeah. We would still have conversations about like player replacements and like giving people chances and stuff like this, but that's just because like common decency. You don't just kick a player and like, oh, bye bye. You have multiple conversations with them about what it is that they need to improve, because if they then do improve, you build trust between each other. I trust them more because they prove to me that they can change. And they trust me more because I gave them the opportunity to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where people are very bad at doing that in teams. But so for me, it's more about I don't get as angry anymore. I don't scream. I screamed at G2 like 2 or 3 times.
And it was all call on camera.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because those were the moments where it was needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then at these guys, I haven't been angry once yet. I mean, there was a small, like how players are sometimes. They were arguing with each other, and I just said enough very loudly.
Yeah.
And then they stopped.
Yeah.
And then after the day it was done, they both wrote and apologized in the group chat to each other, the way it should be, because we don't need to escalate things. Yeah. I mean, they share bed at events, so it's.
they have to kiss and make up.
They have to kiss and make up. Yeah.
They're too close. They're too close at events, and I think, it's interesting that you talk about emotion being the number one thing that's changed, because it's probably to do with age as well, Fabian. I would imagine as you've gotten a little older, you've taken a bit more of a retrospective look and probably looked at things in the same light as you do the game, where you're looking from above rather than just looking at it as a point of view.
Yeah.
So if you had a piece of advice to give a player at the moment, what do you think the most underrated aspect of playing is, and what should people be focusing on the most?
I think the thing people focus on the least, and one of the most important parts that they should probably be focusing on, if not the most, but like second most at least after playing, is actually to analyze your own fucking gameplay. Like, genuinely, the amount of shit that you can learn from watching, and then always ask yourself the question, why? Always. Like, if you play a map and you do a review, that review should probably take about an hour and a half. Because you should be thinking, what could we have done differently? And then, why should we have done it differently? Why did I make these decisions? Why are we doing this? And just keep adding the why, what. It's always possible to add it. And yeah, there are things that are going to be minimal. but you also point those out. But then when you start looking at it this way, the amount of major mistakes you'll see in a round when you're practicing, you can be like, oh yeah, I misdrone him, and that's the end of the discussion. Yeah, that might be it. But then when you look back at what you actually did more wrong than just misdrone, you'll see a billion things. Honestly, you'll see a billion. The players needs to be willing to sacrifice their life, because you will not succeed if you don't. I lost all my friends. I lost all my relationships from when I was younger. And that's also one of the reasons I'm a coach, because I'm not willing to do that anymore, which I don't have to waste 15 hours a day watching things or playing. I did when I was a player. And that's why we won everything.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with, as being a player, you just so, I guess we can only talk from your perspective, but were you just so focused on success that, you know, the emotions of friendships and life as a whole kind of just faded into the background as you focused on the game? Like how did you go through that emotionally?
Well, I'm autistic as hell, so I guess that might be part of it. No, no, like I don't know. See, ever since I went to I don't even know what it's called in English. You have 2 steps to get the mental degree on paper, and a lot of things make sense when I've gotten the diagnosis. But it's not about like dealing. I mean, I guess it's a bit of dealing with it, but it's kind of just, is it worth it to you? If it is, then go for it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that whilst it might be worth it if you succeed, but it might not be worth it if you don't. And the likelihood of you succeeding is, well, less likely than it is to succeed. So it's a gamble that you have to make, and a gamble you most likely will not win. But then again, don't listen to anybody like me that's telling you to not believe in your dreams, because if you do, then you weren't made to make it anyways. So it's a mix of things there.
It's a tough one coming from you, because you know, 3 hammers, unknown godly amount of championships later. I guess that's what happens when you pursue it and you believe in it, with everything that you have. What is this will be the final kind of big question that I ask you, but when all is said and done, regardless of how long you are continuing to stay in Siege, whether it's for another 10 years and you follow Siege X the entire time, and then we go to Siege Y and then Siege Z, and then you're 60 and it's over. What is it that, like, do you think about legacy a lot? Because you are the individual in the community that probably has one of the biggest legacies to the game, but do you ever think about legacy as a driving force, or what you'd like to leave behind in the game?
The only thing I care about is leaving behind a net positive. Every single person has done dumb shit in their life, said dumb things in their life, written dumb things in game during their lives. And people are just humans in the end, and I am too. People put us on a pedestal when we're professionals, and that's not reality. Like, we are not better than anybody else. We're not worse than anybody else. We're all just normal people. But leaving behind a net positive, trying to do as much as I can for other people whilst I'm doing it, just to help other people out in their life, I think I fulfill mine. So for me, it's not about legacy in any fucking way, shape, or form, I'll be honest and say, because I don't give a shit. Because when I'm done with this, I'm deleting all my social media. I despise social media. I think it's, honestly, if I was a believer of any religious faith, social media is made by Satan. And it ruins people's minds. It ruins people's like the terms of like enjoyment for people. It destroys lives. I think a big reason why our world is looking the way it is these days is simply due to how much social media is around. And it puts people against each other in an us versus them thought process, and I just don't want to be part of that. When I'm done, I'll be deleting all my social media. I don't know if I'll delete the accounts. I'm gonna take it off I'll log out of everything and do this shit, you know. But I'll be disappearing into the shadows, because I don't want to be in the spotlight. I don't want to be a public figure. Probably the worst thing that I can imagine, like a public figure. It's just no for me. Thank you. I'll be gone. Legacy, whatever. That's for other people to decide. I can't decide my own.
I mean, considering the sweetness of your soul to people who like myself, request time from you. We were just talking about it before we jumped on camera, and most people don't get to see that side of you or that conversation. But the fact that you are, so willing to give your time up to help others, I think that's it. Really does stand in opposition to the social media side of everything. You have always been a very front-facing player, coach, analyst, but you've always given your time. And I think that a lot of people, no matter what they think of you as a coach or as a player or the attitude that you've had at times, I don't think anyone can look past what you've done for the wider community. So, by all means, I can completely respect that when you look back at the legacy that you leave, you want to leave it in a positive, and I can completely understand that.
Well, I hope so. I just think that I am here because they allowed the game to be what it is, and for me to be where I am, and therefore, in a way, I'll always owe them, and therefore, I think they don't see it this way, and in reality, I don't owe anybody a fucking shit. But 5 minutes for me is memories for them, and if that is the case, then my 5 minutes is not worth shit.
Well, an hour for me might equal 500 clicks. So, that's all I care about at the end of the day. Fuck you, Fabian. I never really cared about you.
It's fine.
But it's, getting to know you over the last 2 years has been very interesting, kind of seeing, I guess, your shift from analyst work into coaching. And now you're moving to NA and a completely new challenge and something I'm super excited for. Before I let you go, I am going to do a rapid fire Global Siege edition. There are not many people that will have opinions like yours that I think are going to warrant a rapid fire question session every time, but you are someone I think you have the tendency to potentially lead into something spicy while we do this. So I got a couple of questions here. We got about 10 questions that will rapid fire here. So give you maybe 10 seconds to respond to every answer. Otherwise I'm moving on to the next one.
Yeah.
Most overrated player in Rainbow Six Siege right now.
Right now, I need to think of it. So this is going to be controversial because I might say as a player, Troy Canadian might right now be one of the most overrated. I'm not saying this is in a negative way. As a leader and as a structural person and what he provides to the team, he is one of the best in the world. Yes. Absolutely. But his fragging ability has fallen off so much that I believe that it's a liability for a team to succeed. So for me as a player, yes, but everything else, no. But if we go for like an individual player, just as like in general.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Who would it be? Fuck it. I think it's Alemão. Fuck that guy. How many of them can you shoot, motherfucker?
I'm striking the last question off for sure. Most underrated player globally right now.
Most underrated player. I think that is such a hard question because if someone is good enough, I personally rate them, which puts it in Okay, this is gonna sound weird because it's the one player out of Beast Coast that we didn't pick in terms of like we didn't have space for him in a way, but at the same time we already had a player. I think Spirits. The mentality that he has when I spoke to him and the like approach of how to be a professional, I think that people don't rate him as highly as I personally do because what I like mentality wise, playstyle wise, operator for the upcoming season, I think he will fit great into the meta and work ethic is actually on top. So I think the Spirits might be one that people rate him.
Yep.
They don't rate him as highly as they should.
Yep. What region do you think in this current era of Siege is the dominant region?
Brazil by far. Just because they have different teams that are able to succeed. And like Europe, they don't have different teams that are able to succeed. Like G2, they're a decent team. But problem is that like Alemão shuts down you in big matches. Now he's not in game leader anymore. So hopefully that will be for the better like of the group in terms of success. I think he's a good player, but I can always make it fun of it. But Europe doesn't have that. They have BDS now, Falcons.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Sure.
North America, who? Which team? There's no consistency here. But
M80
Brazil is,
now. M80
uh,
moving forward, surely.
we haven't proven it yet, so I can't say it. But yeah,
Yeah.
Brazil have different team of the different team of the different team of the different team, and they're
Yeah.
continuously producing results.
Yeah. All right. Very simple one. Best in-game leader in Siege history, including
Oh,
yourself.
that's me. Troy
Yeah.
has a longer career than I do, but I never lost to him ever. Uh, the amount of time that I had as a career as a player, I delivered results that nobody has ever been able to replicate, even during that long of a career. So it doesn't matter what I did in 4 years as a player, 5 years maybe. Uh, I don't think that like it will not be replicated by an in-game leader because it's harder to do it these days. There were
Yeah.
less good teams back then, but the amount of dominance that we showed, nobody will ever replicate.
What game had you the most stress in your entire career?
Space Station Gaming SI19 quarterfinal.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Any particular reason on that one?
We were struggling in general with defenses on Villa, and
Yeah.
defenses on Villa at that point, you won 95% of them. So that was a really tough one. If we want to add another one, it would be the SI, oh not SI, sorry, it would be the grand final of Raleigh, because I think that at Raleigh, the G2 team played the best siege we'd ever done. Like in terms of like, we are talking about 2019 end of it. We played the
Yeah.
absolute best siege we'd ever done, and then during the game I asked Kanto to play Ash, and he said he couldn't do that. And I said, we need a frontliner. We need to kill them. I'll be right behind you with Lion. We'll have Dokaebi in our team as well, and we just need to kill them. And I was told we can't. I can't, was what I was told. And like that for me mentally lost us the game. That's one of those like stressful situations where like I know the game is over before the game is over.
Yeah.
So that sucked. But other than that, I don't think that I stressed out much over games in general because I always believed we would win no matter what. I even thought we would win SI 2020 with the sub. So it's like, you can't stop me from believing.
I'm a firm believer. No, if you tell me something with confidence, I don't think I can not believe you. Now that you're a coach, what is the most frustrating team or play style to prepare for?
I don't think that there is one because I think that preparing is super simple. You have to look
Yep.
at what they're doing, the tendencies that other teams have, repeated decisions by individuals. So look at the strats they're playing. Okay,
Yep.
what sort of play style do they have? But the thing is, a lot of people will, and a lot of teams will prepare the team by just doing the coach do the work or the analyst. It's not the right
Yep.
approach. When you go to an event, you are there to work, and your work event means that you watch the games uh,
Mm-hmm.
from the opponent you're going to play as a whole team, which means that everybody can see how they're thinking, what decisions do they make, because most of the time it will be repetitive. Not in the way that it's like thought through to be repetitive, but when you play X strat and you see a player play that strat twice, you see his
Yep.
movement and his decisions, you can almost guarantee he's going to do it exactly the same way if you see the strat. And if he doesn't,
Yep.
well, then you'll be surprised slightly. But you can also be prepared for what he can do differently. But if you know,
Yep.
you have confidence.
What is the biggest difference between a team that wins and a great team?
Um, I think a great team does win, but I think a great team wins consistently. And I think the teams that win one event, usually they are just in it for like they're in a momentum role.
Yep.
And I think that those teams that win success like has a long-term success. So like if we take it, SI23 G2 momentum team,
Yep.
Beast Coast, which all my new players are from, momentum team.
Yep.
I think W7M had a momentum event as well, and that will happen. But then I look at great teams, which is my old G2. That was not a, it was not a like just a one-time off.
Yep.
We look at Furia, they were not a one-time off. I think that BDS, Falcons, we call them now, not a one-time off. Those are the great
Yep.
teams, because even if Falcons haven't won all of that,
Yep.
I mean they win EWC, so in the end they have the most money out of anyone, anyways. But in a way, yeah, okay. People, I'll say, who cares about money? But that's because I've already been blessed with having enough by winning. In the
Yes.
end, money is fucking lovely. Everybody loves money. But if it would make no difference for me, if I would have more money but no titles, I'd still take the titles because I'm in such a blessed situation to be in, anyways. But
Yes.
titles is fucking everything for us, and BDS with Falcons, even if they haven't won them all, they have still showed
Yep.
consistently that they are the contenders to do it.
Yep.
So I'd rate them higher than any of those teams that won one event.
Yep. Of these three, which is the most important aspect of a player? Strategic knowledge, instinct for the game, or mechanic ability?
All three combined, there's none that is more important than others. And then it's just about like, if you played any games with sliders where if you put one slider high enough, you can't move the others.
Yes.
There needs to be you can be the smartest strategical player and game understanding player, but if you don't have the mechanics to back it up, it doesn't matter. You can be the best mechanical player, but if you're dumb as a brick, then it doesn't matter. So all three of them are as important as the next one, but then you need to find the balance of all of them and improve on all of them, because there's a way to break this and become good at all of it. But also you need the balance within the team. So it's all three of them. I can't say anyone's better than other.
You suck. If you could rerun one moment in your career to relive again, be in the same seat, have those same emotions, what moment would it be?
SI18 grand final win. That is the best.
Totally respectful.
People will say that SI24 grand final in Brazil was the best, but nah, fuck that shit. SI18, that's the best game ever played.
Yep. And finally, I think this one will be a fun one. Which player today reminds you of yourself?
Fucking hell, Alamo.
Oh, that is fantastic. What a way to end it. Oh my God. I don't even, we're finishing it on that one. Fabian, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure.
I hate him? Why do you think I hate him? Because he's fucking...
It's so fun.
It's the same. We're exactly the same, except I was professional. And then everything else is the same.
Have you watched Ted Lasso?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, for those that have, you'll know exactly the reference I'm talking about. It's Roy and old mates on the team. The old and the young, the conflict of the ego that used to be and now is older. Yes, it's fantastic. Fabian, I've got to say, mate, it has been an absolute pleasure. An hour and a bit we've been speaking for, but I've only known you for, 2-3 events. Got to know you at SI Brazil, and I honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you at more events and seeing that cheeky little grin that you've got. I do this for everyone. I'm going to give you the floor here. Would you like to say anything to anyone watching? Expectations for NA, whatever. This is completely open.
Now I just need to go take a dump.
Mate, that is the perfect way to end it. I couldn't thank you anymore, Fabian. Thank you very much for joining me, mate, and best of luck at Reload in Brazil.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, for everyone at home, we'll see you in the next one.